welcome to NAMI Maine Talks. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the great outdoors in the state of Maine and talking about the importance of getting outside and walking around and getting those important chemicals and vitamin D and C. And today, joining me, we have Diane Hessemann. Diane, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Hessemann. I'm a social worker, and I live in Maine now, happily for the last full time, the last 8 years. I relocated here from New York City.
Hmm. And so, Diane, I first reached out to you through the Maine Outdoor Adventure Club. And that is a small group that started back in 1989. And the membership has stayed about the same, but you guys have a group dedicated to getting a community and building a community to get people outside and making sure that some people can, if they don't have that opportunity within their friends or their family, to find an opportunity for people to get outside and go on these hikes or canoeing or something like that. I was just wondering, do you want to explain or give a little bit of a background as to how you got involved with MOAC?
Yes. So BOAC is one of many organizations in the state of Maine that brings people together um, to do all of such a wide variety of activities outdoors. I mean, we're in Maine. I vacationed here for many years and just, fell in love with Maine. And my story is, not unique. So, I'll talk later about, maybe some other resources. But with MOAC, which is what it's called. So when I came here, I did participate in other land trust activities in certain neighborhoods. I used to live in Wells, so there's Home Farms down there, and just through networking, I heard about MOAC, and it is an organization. It's now an aging organization because some of the original founders from 1989 are still there. And we do things, like camping trips and kayaking and snowshoeing. This weekend, we're going to the Flagstaff Huts for a weekend,
Hmm.
and yeah, so it's been really good, to build community. Coming from New York City, I walked a lot. I have good stamina. I'm in, good health. But as a kid, never did activities like mountain climbing and kayaking to this extent.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from MOAC and the other organizations that I've connected.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting that you bring up that you're originally from New York, because I think that something a lot of people really tend to talk about is like New York and Boston. A lot of them tend to be like walking cities, where if you want to go to a certain place, you walk. Whereas in Maine, as I'm sure you know, Maine isn't very walk accessible if you want to get from one area to another. You have to drive. So it's really important to kind of prioritize getting outside and walking, even if it's just for a little bit, if that's all you have time for. It's really important to prioritize that if you don't do that normally. So you are also a licensed social worker, and I know that you've talked to me about how you suggest a lot of outdoor activities or getting outside to a lot of your work. But I was wondering, how do you kind of implement something that you like so much as getting outside into your work of social work?
Okay, so I could give two examples. So one of them is that I got very interested in self care for social workers,
Hmm.
and it actually became part of our code of ethics in 2021.
Yeah.
And so I did some workshops on that. And we also, during the pandemic, had an online group. And so we talked a lot about how nature is very healing.
Mhm.
I had the privilege of being able to interview someone for a presentation I did, Aram Mitchell, who
Mhm.
used to do renewal in the wilderness. He moved away. He lives in Massachusetts now, so he doesn't have his organization anymore. But he was very generous with his time, and we talked about how he used to have these retreats for outdoors for people who were service providers in a wide variety of, like medical, mental health, nurses, to get out. And it was renewal in the wilderness was, self-explanatory title. And a concept he taught me that I tuck away and really share with others and have used in my trainings is every day, can you think about, being outside and how would you get a snack, a meal, or a feast? So I think if we could think about as, not just social workers, but everyone, right? Like, just like what you said, like, Maine is a driving community. I used to get a lot more steps in on a regular basis in New York City,
Yeah.
but I do more hiking and kayaking and snowshoeing up here. But anyway, for me, a snack would be if I had a real busy day online and I got a 2 mile walk in on the neighborhood. A meal would be like a 3 or 4 hour, afternoon where I kayaked or hiked. And then a feast would be a camping trip or a trip that I recently came back from where we trekked 70 miles in 6 days in France.
Yeah.
So, so to kind of think about stuff like that. Also, also, when I was in New York, and I had, my office was live before the pandemic. Now I'm 100% online. So I am a social work consultant for the court system in New York City, and I did a lot of supervised visitation. I was right down the street from Prospect Park, which is like the Brooklyn version of Central Park, and and I used to incorporate a lot of activities and going outside with the families.
Yes.
That, nature was very healing. And I'm so glad you asked me that question. Nature is very healing on so many levels, right? So, having to try to get, families to reconnect with each other and they could play ball or we could walk around the park or go to the carousel or just being outside was just, we had some really good feel good moments.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said about, just being outside and walking around, finding something to do. I know that you just got back from a long trip in France where you did a long hike. I actually just returned this week from Acadia with some friends, and it was a bunch of us squeezed into one car driving through the national park. But whenever we would get outside of the car and go and do a hike or go and walk along the beach or something like that, everyone always just felt a little bit better and everyone had a smile on their face and joking around. And it really does help to boost your mood and help build community. And I love what you mentioned about getting a snack, a meal, and a feast. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I bottle that. I think that's just such a great thing, and I say
Yeah.
to myself, okay, so at least today today is just a snack day. I
Mhm.
got extra steps because I purposely parked my car at one place and walked to Hannaford and then walked back. But at least I got my snack.
Exactly. No, exactly. And that's a great way to look at it. And something we've actually had a few podcasts in the past talking about the importance of getting outdoors and the importance of nature. On one of our podcasts, we've actually talked with Ryan Eldridge from the Maine Cabin Masters, and he talked about his journey to recognizing his own mental health and his prioritizing of mental health. And he found out that really kind of came about and it was really kind of at its highest when he was outside working with his family, working with his friends, or even just like walking around outside with his dog. And I think that that was something really powerful that, it's something that a lot of people in Maine, especially, that's where they find strength within themselves.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for me, to piggyback on
Yeah.
what you said is that if I kind of get stuck on something, work wise, or I just want to figure something out, I can't tell you how many times when, sometimes even just a simple walk, I
Yeah.
could, you get more creative, you get your ideas, you get to focus on what's like in your mind that you might have to, resolve or, this might be a solution. Um, it's happened a lot of times for me.
Yeah. No, it's really great. Um, and I know something in Maine that a lot of Mainers end up struggling with, and we have the season coming up soon, but seasonal effectiveness disorder, it's also known as SAD. But it occurs every single winter when we have reduced hours of sunlight and we have a lot more cold weather, and it reduces a lot of people's ability to get outside and walk around and get that sunlight and vitamin D that they really desperately need. So I was wondering, would you have any suggestions for around the winter time, still ways to find ways to get outside?
Yeah. So since I've been here, I took up snowshoeing. I
Mm.
actually took uh, some really cool lessons at Bean. And
Mm.
there was a winter that Bean had even free snowshoeing where they give out the snowshoes at Fog Farm. I don't know if
Oh,
they have it
wow.
anymore. Yeah, they used to have it free on Wednesday nights,
Mhm.
like at 6 o'clock or something like that. And so and like they say, because you get to use their equipment and stuff like that. They say, hey, there's no bad weather, there's just bad clothes. So you just have to learn how to dress in layers. And a lot of my friends, they go like to Goodwill and places like that because and get wool and get what you need, because you really have to be prepared to
Mhm.
be outside. But once you are because I get cold a lot. In New
Oh,
York,
yeah.
the dampness would just kind of go through you. But since I learned how to like layer up and stuff like that, you it's like a dream. And then if you are, say, I'm just going to use snowshoeing, right? Some people
Mhm.
cross country ski, and listen, all these activities are not for everyone, and it's you have to do you. I think that's going to be, if that could be a takeaway, you have to do what's good for you. I tried cross country skiing. I call it cross country falling. Could do snowshoeing fine, right? And then once you get that cardio up, right, then the happy hormones are coming on, the serotonin, the not oxycodone, it's called oxytocin,
Mm.
right? And serotonin and dopamine, all those happy hormones
Yeah.
still come up, right? So once you get going, you might start to shed layers.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I still think, and even going out on hikes, walking, and if you're going to be going on an incline, you're going to get warmer. There's places like um, Roberts Farm and Oxbow where they have trails that are free in
Oh,
the winter.
nice.
Yeah. So you could just, you could walk around there too. So I think it's like not to be afraid of the winter. I know that Lord Home, I met with a really good friend of mine on an event. It was a moonlight snowshoe at Lord Home. And so, you just bundle up.
Mhm.
I think for me is like you just don't get a fear, embrace it. So I kind of like, personally, I look forward to snow, because in New York, I mean, I'm old enough to know when we used to have snow. So I get pangs for that climate change stuff going on, because New York City hardly gets any snow anymore last
Mm.
week. So I embrace it, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know with me, in one of our past podcasts that I've done, we talked about holiday stress, but around that same time we talked about getting outdoors, and even if you don't have, I mean, Maine has trails and, little places to walk almost everywhere. But if you're in an area where you don't have access to something like that, go outside and walk down the street and see the Christmas lights or see how people have decorated their house or something for the holidays. And getting outside and even just walking along the street at that time is going to be great. And it's going to get you moving and boost those happy chemicals, like what you were saying. Hmm. And so I was wondering, do you have before we started this podcast, you had brought up some other resources that you have provided and talked about before. I was wondering, do you have would you like to share any of those?
that. So
Hmm.
yeah, so bean and some of the stuff is might be a little bit pricey. However, if you go on their website, I mean, you could pay the full price. I think still reasonable for some of it. They have from discovery courses through more challenging for people who've been at it for more, say with snowshoeing or kayaking.
Hmm.
Um, and they do have some free stuff. Gorham Bike and Ski will rent
Mm.
out bicycles and skis and cross country skis and all that you need. Most towns have adult education, and
Yes.
adult education sometimes has free things. I know Wells has a beautiful day. We went on it twice where they take you in the adult ed is through the high school, Wells High School, and they have the director of adult ed took us in a school van to Jackson, New Hampshire, and we
Mm.
went. It was all day cross country ski or snowshoe day. It was beautiful. Um, Also, you could read up. A lot of people, what I find is there's a lot of artistry in Maine. So there's a lot of books, there's a lot of art, there's a lot of crafts fairs, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, just being outside of the crafts fair
Yeah.
is a cool thing. There's a lot of stuff at Christmas time, a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm familiar like with the southern part of Maine, like
Hmm.
Kenny has like beautiful prelude, and to be outside with that.
Oh
But
yeah.
there's a lot of books written about nature and Maine, and getting a library card is a good thing.
Hmm.
The Free Trading Post has books about nature. Bean has books about nature, um, and then um, and then again, just really look into the land trusts because
Yes.
I think almost every town in Maine has some kind of land trust. So that would mean that they would have trails, that they would have events, they would have volunteer opportunities, right? Um, at Lord Home Farms. Yeah. So, and then also Friends of Acadia.
Mm. Yes.
So, yeah, so in a couple of weekends, we do this the first weekend in November with Friends of Acadia. They there's a few volunteer groups which make up 400 people, and we go up and clean the carriage roads, probably where close to where you were.
Yeah.
Like we clean carriage roads and get things ready for the winter, and then the town. Then we go into town, and the Friends of Acadia sponsors a really good chili and cornbread lunch for 400 people.
That's
So that
Lovely. Yeah, I love that because so many people love the carriage trail and riding along it and everything like that, and I'm really glad that there's a group dedicated to cleaning it and making it presentable before the winter.
exactly. But what happens too is that it's kind of like you know uh, um, there's a few benefits from that because it's community building,
yes.
it's making connections with people, it's breaking bread with people. So it's not just being outside. We're outside for about 4 hours, so we all go up there for like for pretty much the weekend because it's a ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I'm sure I'll be throwing up some photos that I gathered from Acadia, but Acadia is breathtaking. Along some of the hikes and the beaches, seeing the rocky cliffs and the Thunder Hole and Otter Point, everything like that. It's all just so beautiful. And I think that that's one of the main things that why we always talk about at NAMI Maine, we always talk about getting outdoors and getting outside. And I think we always bring that up because we have such a great state to do it in. We have so many places where you can go snowshoeing or snowboarding or skiing during the winter, but then during the summer, we have plenty of beaches and trails and hikes. And it's really just a great place to get outside.
It certainly is. I mean, people wait all year to come on vacation here, like what I used to do, right? And I
Uh-huh.
just am so fortunate that I'm here.
Yeah.
So I think before we wrap up for today's episode, I wanted to see, do you have anything else that you'd want to share?
Um, just the takeaway would be, just kind of like if people could think about, snack, meal, and feast. And then
Mm.
also just to, kind of underscore that, you know, you need to do what's good for you. You might brush up with people like I have, who are, real athletes and they can do this, and you go hiking with them and they're already up the mountain and they're waiting for you and all sorts of stuff. You know what? Like it's okay,
Hmm.
and you just do what feels good for you.
Yeah.
You- and you do it safely and you go prepared, but you go according to your comfort level. You maybe stretch outside your comfort level a little bit, but just enjoy, just being outside,
Yeah.
looking at all the stars at night. That I'll just end on this. In New York City, you can't see all the stars at night,
Hmm.
right? Like ocean, building, and everything. One thing of the many that I appreciate here is I can see the whole sky,
Yeah. Oh, it's so
like in
beautiful to
Arizona.
see.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because I'm outside. Yeah.
That's a great way to end it off. Um, Before we end off, I'd just like to say if you are looking for any resources for Maine based mental health support, you can always reach us online at namimaine.org, and you can also call the helpline support number listed on the screen now. Thank you so much for listening. And Diane, thank you for joining us. This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you.